Sevgili dostlar, bir mevzunun hem orasında hem burasında hem ötesinde hem berisinde bulunmak mevzuya hakimiyeti aslında ne kadar derinleştiren bir pozisyon değil mi? Yani hakikaten çözüyorsun. Çünkü şimdiki konuğumuza bakın. Yazılımcı olmuş, güvenlik danışmanı olmuş, yazılım güvenliği uzmanı olmuş ve dünya çapında olmuş. Çok önemli bir stratejist. Yani mevzunun hem o yakasında hem bu yakasında bulunmuş. Dolayısıyla onun çözümlemeleri, analizleri çok daha kıymetli, çok daha farklı hale geliyor bu bakış açısıyla. Yazılım güvenliğini yazılım geliştirmenin ilk safhası haline nasıl geliştireceğimizi, nasıl getireceğimizi anlatacak. Bu kıymetli konukla Gökhan Say konuşacak. Kim efendim bu konuk o kadar önemli bir konuk ki yani işinin ehli, yekta, üstad ekipten efendim OWASP'ın yönetim kurulu başkanlığına kadar yükselmiş. Şu anda efendim Microfocus'un çok önemli bir stratejisti ve bize hakikaten hayati bilgiler verecek. Kitlenelim. Kim geliyor? Martin Knobloch geliyor efendim. Aman diyeyim kaçırmayalım. Hadi buyursunlar.
Martin, welcome, my friend. It is a great pleasure to have you on our virtual stage. I wish on the physical one, but this is also great.
Hey, Gökhan, thanks for having me.
Thank you, my friend. You know, I'm just when I was trying to learn about you, I looked at your career, man. It is unbelievable. You were a developer, a software architect, principal consultant, security consultant, storyteller, which is very important, head of global application security in a very large organization. And now you are global AppSec strategist in Microfocus. And you have another head. You are for 13 years, in the last 13, 14 years in OWASP, Netherlands, chapter leader, chairman of boards, member of board now, still continuing doing your job, man. We are lucky to have you on our stage, but Microfocus is even luckier than us, my friend.
I hope so, yes. I think it's only a question for us to stay in the same field for long enough and be busy, yeah.
So it means you have been in all sides of the story, right?
Yeah, I think that's a big advantage. I'm really happy about it. So my origins, I went into software development late in the 90s. Before that, I have been actually a mechanic and taught myself PLC programming. From PLC programming, I came to this web development, Java. So that's a nice rucksack with me, piece of garbage and tools. So I understand developers. I know where I come from. I know architecture. I learned to understand the business. I have been consultancy with the security tools. Also for Microfocus, I have been on the supporting side of that part. Then I have been an independent contractor. I have been implemented Fortify. And now I'm in the product team. And before that, I have been a customer. So I have seen all the aspects of the tool, yes.
So then I must ask you the challenge, my friend. What is the biggest challenge security development is having these days?
I think it's a time to market. Oh, now as I'm older, I would almost say the use has no patience anymore. We have an idea and it has to be to market. So you get this very quick development, the developer-centric approach these days. You're developing, you push it through your CI/CD pipeline, automated testing, and bam, it's on production. And where's this validation? Where's this that part in between that we know it's really, really good? What we had in the past, it's not a hobby, it's enterprise development. So it has a different type of expectations in security because business is at stake, people's data is at stake. So yes, with this one fast moving train, how we can do the security as well is not a train derailing. Yeah.
The bosses always want happy ending. I agree. Business. Yeah. So in such a world, what are the implications of DevOps, DevSecOps for both the CISO office and the security professionals?
Yeah, I think without going too much in DevSecOps, which you very much see, it's kind of developer-centric. Even the ops part becomes much more infrastructure by software. So what you see, it's developer-centric. So developers get more and more responsibilities, but we also have to see the abilities for them to create their possibilities to be able to do whatever they're responsible for. So in the past, we had what I know always called the security toll gates, when we had this CI/CD pipeline, this continuous delivery train, and then we had the toll gates. The barrier says, stop, wait for the next test. So before, I had seen it so many times, from development to test, you need a static code, and then it says from test to acceptance, you need a dynamic test. So the test results took up to 3 weeks or even months to fix. That doesn't work in this world. So we need to give the development the right tools so they can do the test. And also it means for the security professionals, you are not holding back anymore and doing it, because you give these tools to the developer, you are monitoring. So your role becomes much more monitoring than validating, because validation will have to be more and more automated.
So it is always coming to the culture and human problems, right? So, but we are always talking about this engagement problem in between security and security people and developers. Why are we having such a difficulty in engaging these two teams?
I think I see this everywhere. So people like to cluster. People try to be with their own folks. When you go, it's like, I'm German. When I go to Turkey on vacations, you see a lot of Germans with other Germans because they're on vacation. The one common thing is to be German. And I don't have to that much, and I really like about it, but I think that's something that's very typical. So when you look for, there's this development department, the security department. There were two different departments. It's not one company, one business goal. What you see on the security people, the traditional CISO and compliance officer, they come from process. So they have to checklist and they don't know code with their hearts. Or you see the security people who come from the hacker part. So they know how to break it, but not how to fix it. So they look down to the developers and say, oh, you're stupid because you make these stupid mistakes. But they don't understand the complexity of this work. So that's, I think, what I'm very lucky with, to have the software development background and the security understanding. So I can combine those. That's actually what I did best is to combine both, so to talk to the business, to the security people, and to the developers. And I think, yes, have an open culture. That's the first thing to change in the company, to meet each other, to talk to each other.
Exactly. And but of course, I mean, things are changing, or let's hope that they are changing. And you are in AppSec from the early days. What has changed in the last decade, man, especially within the current push left for the developers? What is happening?
So I think one thing that has changed is the time to market. That is very clear. And also what's changed is that the control you have of your own software, the software stack becomes more and more complicated. On the other side, and I talked to John Stephen about that, we're missing the craftsmanship in the past. So when you look outside of the IT world, when you become a bricklayer, whatever, you have this 3 years of when you're learning the job, and then you have the apprentice years, and then after that you have several years and 5 apprentice years, and then you have another occasion become I'm a master. So it's like 7 to 8 years in the job, many projects, and then you kind of a status. In software development, when I see from the world of the consulting companies, that you are coming from a university, and then you have like 6 months, you're a junior, and then you have 2 to 3 years in the media, and then you have become a senior. So you're a senior developer after 4 or 5 years coming from university. So then you get this 27-year-old full stack senior full stack developer. And it's like, you cannot be senior when you never had to suffer from the consequences of your own decisions, own architecture and design decisions. So I think the craftsmanship is very important these days. And that's, I think also security have the same problems. We want to feel faster, we want to grow faster, but what comes after that? And what you see is actually when I talk to them, they don't know about it. We talked earlier about that. It's like SQL check is there for 20 years. 20 years, the most developers, they were not even on school yet, but they don't know about SQL checks because nobody teaches them about it. So there's also the community history and conscious is very short. Yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting, my friend. But if things are a little changing, it is like we learn from the crisis, and then we just change and improve, right? I mean, there are many mistakes we learn from, of course, but as you said, SQL, it's a 21 years old problem, and what are the biggest mistakes that we could never learn from in this AppSec world, in this DevSecOps world? What do you think?
The biggest mistakes, there's so many. The first is not to listen. First is to blame. It's very important. The things we never learned. Then, unfortunately, is don't do it yourself. If something out there that works, so also in the past when they had about enterprise architecture, they said like reuse before buy, before build. Yes, you can be not smart, but use what's out there and see if that fits your purpose before you do it yourself. I think that's a general IT analogy. What we have to learn is actually early engagement. It's very important. Yeah.
For that change, I think OWASP is a really good guide, man, cool guide. So, but in one of your presentations, you said OWASP top 10 is the blessing in one side and the curse. Why is that?
Yes, OWASP top 10 is, and we are grateful about the name knowledge that we gained with OWASP top 10. It's still the most referenced document we have. It helped us very much when they came out first in 2003 and 2004. It was referenced by PCI for the DSS, the data security standard of primary critical industry. You have to scan your application against the OWASP top 10. So actually they used the top 10 as a checklist, but it never was meant for. It's a top 10. It's not conclusive. It's just like, hey guys, this is top 10 risk. Don't do this faults that everybody does. And then this OWASP changing the mission statement from the fighting, finding, preventing of course of unsecure software into making the risk visible so the business can make the right decisions back in 2008. In 2010, we changed to OWASP top 10 is now about the most common risk. It's an awareness document. It helps when you find something, when you find an SQL injection we mentioned. The business doesn't understand what an SQL injection is. They don't know what a database is. But with OWASP top 10 guide helps you translate this vulnerability to make the risk visible for the business so they can take the decision. I think we have hackers since the 70s, 80s. But the problem is they came to the business with their command prompt and say, hey, look, I bought your mail server. And the business said, hey, well done. Have no idea what you're talking about. I think that's the biggest problem maybe we have to learn from, to talk the right language to the people we talk to. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So the mission statement of OWASP, that is another change, my friend. So it changed from finding, fighting, depending on secure software to making the risk visible so the business can make the right decisions. So is application security a business decision?
Yes, it is. And it's always what I say, my problem is with the push left. I love push left. I talk about security by design since halfway 2007, I think the first presentation was security by design, but the push left kind of stops at the developer. But before the developer engages something else, guess what? The business has an idea, has a request and design. It's not the developer that decides, hey, we need a two-factor authentication. It's not the developer says, hey, let's do an online sales business, or let's have this functionality online. It's not a developer's decision, it's a business decision. The business must decide, with all the risk and all the knowledge they get, we hopefully can provide them, is it smart to do it? What are the consequences? And what measures to lower the risk to acceptable risk?
So if it is a business decision, not a technical one, in terms of risk management, then what is secure enough, man? How much secure is secure enough?
Yeah, in the past we talked about the risk appetite, and there's no wrong or bad. I think it's really good that we now have the government regulation, like in Europe we have the GDPR. And what you see there is also that there's no data ownership, but it's a responsibility, because you have a data subject and data processor and all the things, but there's nobody owning data. No, there's a responsibility you have. So these days we have a responsibility towards our customer, what we can do with our data. So we are limited in the risk appetite. You cannot just say, oh, I take a big risk, let's do this, screw everybody. That's good, because that becomes more sensible, more mature. Sorry. But then still is the question, so how much, what is right? I had a conference, a CISO talked and said, he made a lot of money and got breached. But he was first, however, he made a lot of money. The other his competitors, they were later, they didn't make the money, they never got breached because they're just not there anymore. So it's very, yeah, it's not a very easy answer how secure enough, but at least take your responsibility to do your best.
So, but I see that business is not making also always the right decisions. You know, we are seeing that from headlines, right, my friend? So,
Yeah.
but you know, remembering from my sports, I mean, those competition days, the sportsmen never liked, you know, the warm ups, the stretchings. You know, we always love to do what we do. You know, I mean, if you play football, you want to play football. What is a warm up, man? I mean, but at the end you get injured and you can't play. So it is the coach to make the decision, to the right decision, and to put the plan, to put the strategy. It is kind of governance, right, in our terminology. So do you also think that we have a leadership problem because they are putting the success criteria?
I think that's education. It's talk to them. It's like what I said. We talk to them many times, but we talk tech to business, and that doesn't work. We have to talk business to business. So we get now more and more people who are nerdy enough to understand the security implications, but also verbal enough to talk to business and explain it what it is. And then now there's the government's requirements like you cannot do this, and this is the consequence. So then the business cares about money, and now with GDPR, or in America with the California Privacy Act, and even Singapore has a very strict privacy regulation. You get it by them what actually hurts the business, and that's money. So when you see that when you're not taking care of this, this will cost you serious money, and that actually makes business like, wait a minute, that's important for them, so they understand the implication. Yeah, and actually what you say is like nice. The analogy with sports, I said, security should not take the roles, are not there to limit the game. Security is there to enable the game. I always say security is not there to stop the game of internet or in online business. Rules in the sport are not there to stop. They don't have the rules to stop the sport. No, they have the right expectations and to enable the game. It's same for ours and there with the policies. It's all there to enable, not to restrict. And we have to change them if they don't work. The same for security in a company. You have the security policies. They never should restrict. They should enable. That's the first thing we do. We see what is the problem and how we can enable it on a responsible way.
So how does Micro Focus enables in terms of all these challenges and in this difficult world, man?
Well, you see, it's where we come from. Micro Focus is like, when I look at the static code analyzer, how all it is, it's one of the first static analyzing tools out there. And you said that it was very techie focused, like we have to find everything. And then back then they had also the developer and the auditor view. And you see that banks said, hey, how can it be? I have one data set and we have the view, and I see like thousands of views, I see none. It's like, yes, but for developers, you don't want to hinder them. And Brian Chesbeck then said, if I have two false positives, a developer will not use it, whereby as a security guy, you are scared about a false negative. But we made the tool do good to nerdy approach. Like we have to find everything, but no, it has to be usable, it has to be quick. So what we now currently say is just simplify, fortify, it must be usable. It's much more important than to find everything. So good results are important, but they have to be there quick and it has to integrate with the developers in their environment. It's not just another tool, another environment they cannot work with. And then this other point is this learning, but in your context, in the past, it's like also very good lessons when we had this compliance training or this required security training, and you get this external security guy talking about all this almost obtained risk in a programming language, and you were a PHP programmer and you get Java security tool. It doesn't work because what you don't use, it's new to you, new knowledge, and you don't use it, you will forget it. And that's also something that's now with the joint venture with Secure Code Warrior. You have a vulnerability. So there is now this learning process at your context at a real time. So this is my problem. I program this functionality. I have the security issue with Secure Code Warrior. I have the gamification on learning, not only what it is, but how to fix it. That's also very important. Another thing is also what is developing very differently is now that we see it's much more external code, much more libraries and frameworks that you're relying on. It's this software composition analysis is much more important. And OWASP said the first when they said the OWASP A9 back then, the integrating usage of known, unsecure components. So what is the feedback for the developer? You can say, you cannot use this. I said, yes, but the functionality or maybe a part of this program, but is it really relevant for the software, how I use it? So OWASP dependency checks, is there anything known against the library? But it doesn't mean when there's something known about it, it actually has consequences of how I'm using it. So that's what we now work together with Sonatype. That's what you see. It's not we do everything, but much more joint venture and exchanging and being a more holistic scope on the static code alone. And then, of course, we are the only ones who have the static part with the Spotify SCA and the dynamic part with WebInspect.
Yeah, at the end of the day, we're adding more and more layers every day, unfortunately, to security. And if it is not usable, if it is not integrated, automated in the CI/CD pipeline, then it doesn't bring success. So what is next for Micro Focus, my friend? What else are we going to see from you guys?
Yeah, what you see is that the usability is really much. So we have the saying that it's simplified, fortified, much easier to use it. So we have this fluent license on, you can, because you don't want to have everything on premise. Or maybe when you start, you don't start with buying the hardware, buying server. No, you want to have this SaaS service so you can fortify on demand. And then maybe when you're more mature and getting better, you want to have on premise. So now it's a fluent license. It doesn't make differentiate how you're using it. It's one license and sliding towards the right usage. The other side is also helping the developers, what I said, that easier integration, it's very, very important. Easier dashboarding for the developer, how to see it on the spot. And also what I said for the changing responsibilities for the security people, a holistic view, not to have to review everything, but to monitor. And I don't want to monitor or vulnerabilities. I want to monitor on the capability to fix, to improve. And that will be also a big change.
Perfect. Perfect. It sounds great. So unfortunately, we are coming to the end. I wish we could have more hours to more time with you. But last questions, my friend. If we are going to remember one thing from our conversation, what do you want us to remember?
What I like to say, as I said, I'm a storyteller. So one thing to remember is listen to each other. Listen to each other's problem and work together. It's a joint venture. It's each other's responsibility. We have to help each other. I think that's very important. Understand each other's problems and headache.
Exactly, man. Any last words to your friends in Istanbul, in Turkey? Sorry.
It's like, find, fix, fortify.
Perfect. Exactly. We do that and we love that. It was
Thank you.
great to have you, Martin. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for having me. Okay. Thank you.
Take
care.
Thanks. Bye-bye.